All right, welcome back to Power Up and Pride. My name's Nestani, and today we're going to be running Scooby-Doo Not Over 100 Frights for the Nintendo GameCube. And we're going to be running any percent no CE. No CE just stands for no creepy early. It's just an exclusive trick to Xbox that we have banned for this category. And so, without further ado, timer's going to start as soon as I hit new game. So, 3, 2, 1, go. So, Scooby-Doo Not Over 100 Frights is a 3D Metroidvania and is also a platformer. And so what we're going to do is that throughout the game, we're going to be collecting power-ups. We're going to be collecting 5 of the 10 power-ups in the game. And really only 3 of them are major power-ups. One is a shovel and one is a map, which are, we use the shovel twice and, we use the map to warp, right? They're not the most important, and they're not the most important to movement or accessing new areas, but they are necessary, so that we are going to collect them. And luckily they're at the very beginning, so they don't lose that much time. And so in this first level, you're going to notice that we're going a bit out of our way here, and that's because we're collecting these things called Scooby Snacks. So all these things that you see me running into here, these are called Scooby Snacks. And we have to use these to pay snack gates throughout the game, because these snack gates are unavoidable. If we want to get to a new area, usually we have to pay a snack gate. So the first one you're going to notice is only 25. So you're like, why are you going out of your way? And that's because the last one, they scale up to the last one. So the last one's 850. So you're going to see that quickly these snack gates are going to be compounding on top of each other. So that actually going out of our way a little bit and collecting some extra snacks is actually extremely beneficial and will actually save us time rather than collecting slower stacks by taking a quote unquote more direct route to Mastermind. So here we're going to do a jump that's known as chandelier jump. It doesn't look that bad, but that's actually a very tricky jump that a lot of people miss. We're going to talk to Holly there. We actually just got the map upgrade, and we're jumping on invisible ledges here and jumping on these bats to collect some boxes. Snack boxes are worth 5 snacks each, so we're going to be prioritizing them more throughout the run than single snacks, as you're going to see. And here we're going to collect. We're not going to collect Don Knotts. We're going to talk to the grounds people who's voiced by Don Knotts, and we're going to get the shovel from him because apparently Scooby needs a shovel to dig, even though he's a dog. I don't know. It doesn't make that sense to me, but hey, it is what it is. And here in Shock 1, you're going to notice that a bit later on in this level that there are some enemies that are going to be moving. And that's because this game is pretty nice in the fact that it is cycle based. So that means if we're playing relatively the same speed throughout each level, we can make certain cycles. So these flying fish here are on a cycle, and these rats here are on a cycle. And this is actually the first cycle we're going to hit, and this is called rat cycle, where if we do it correctly, we get to walk through without getting hit by that rat or without having to jump over that final rat in that sequence. And so little cycles like that throughout the run we're going to be making. I probably won't be explaining every single cycle, but just know that if you see anything moving, we are moving in such a way to make a specific cycle in that level. So this is the first level where we have to do some mini games with Shaggy in order to progress. But the thing is that we don't actually need him for any of them. We're actually not going to cooperate with Shaggy once throughout this run, because normally you need him to throw you up here, but instead we can just jump up here ourselves and activate this box, and we can actually jump and get that snack box too, all without the help of Shaggy. And so now we're going to be collecting some snacks, and so these hooks are on a cycle, and that looks a bit dangerous, but I assure you I'm well adjusted those hook cycles so that we're actually making a specific cycle there. And so here you're going to see this black stuff, and this is called tar, and which we cannot run or jump. You're going to see me, I actually went to that rope there to jump, but as you can see I'm spamming A, I can't jump on this tar. And that's because you need something known as the galoshes, but luckily they don't really use the tar much, so we're actually not going to go collect the galoshes power up because it's not necessary. So right there, you actually just saw me do a trick known as tar struts, where upon entry of this level, for whatever reason, you can actually jump before the tar drags you down. So if you frame perfectly jump at the beginning of the level, you can actually skip the level and do it faster. So here are the springs. This allows us to double jump as you see. Unfortunately, I took a little fall there, no worries. And we're going to do a trick known as pause storage. And pause storage essentially allows us to warp from anywhere in the game. And we do this by unplugging the controller and pressing A on quit game at the same time. And it's going to make this little sound. And then we're going to do some more menuing here. And then we have now we are now able to warp. So we don't have to do some backtracking like we would have to backtrack to Shock 2 normally to warp back to Mystery Machine. But instead we skip all that backtracking, and doing a PS warp there actually saves about 20 seconds. And we're actually going to do more of those throughout the run in order to save more time. So here I'm going to explain how Scooby's charge attack works. So as you can see, when I'm doing this little dash here, we can bonk into enemies, and we can actually kill them if we have the helmet power-up, which we do not have yet, and that's what we're actually going to get now that we have the double jump upgrade. And so this, while it is a aggressive dash and where you can do damage to enemies, we actually don't really use it for that at all in this run. Instead, we just use it to speed up Scooby's movement over long instances, like floors. I don't know how to phrase that, but long distances. There we go, long distances. And if you actually use Scooby's dash in like a little short condensed area where you don't have to use it much, it'll actually slow you down, because you see the beginning of the animation is actually slower than if you are just doing a running speed. So you slow down and then you speed up exponentially at the ending of the dash. So you want to use this over long distances more, and you want to use it through short distances less. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but snack boxes. So these snack boxes give you 5 snacks. So you're going to see us dig up this snack box just because we're prioritizing snack boxes more than individual snacks. Ideally, we only want to collect individual snacks when they're in tight lines like these. And we're just going to do a death abuse here. And death abusing just allows us to warp to the beginning of a level wherever you spawn in. Death abusing will take you there. And so here we're going to do a trick known as SCS, and we're going to clip through this gate. And now we're in Misbehavin'. And for people who have played this game before, you're going to be wondering, why are we in Misbehavin' all of a sudden by just clipping through a gate? And that's because since we're going to the helmet and we need the helmet upgrade, it's actually faster to go to Misbehavin' and go through the skull levels backwards to get to the helmet. It's actually faster by about 2 minutes rather than going through a really long auto-scroller in Hedge 4 and the greenhouse levels in order to get to the helmet as you're normally intended to do. But instead, we're going to clip through a little gate by just holding up left on our D-pad, and we're going to enter the skull levels backwards and get to the helmet in the fastest way possible. So here, we're going to get out of bounds, and we got it first try. Nice. And we're going to do some platforming on some invisible ledges, on some visible ledges, and we're going to make our way out of bounds, and we're going to do something known as a void warp. Void warping essentially is we're going to jump into the void, and it's going to warp us to the beginning of the level. Now keep in mind, since we're entering the skull levels backwards, it's going to spawn us to the beginning of the level, which means where we want to go, right? So just there, it just warps us as we get out of bounds. Instead of having a death plane, it just warps you in case, it's like a fail-safe. But instead, we're actually going to abuse that mechanic so that we skip an entirety of Skull 4, which is actually a really long level that has a lot of cycles. But by doing that, we actually just avoid all of that, and we just skip the level entirely. And it saves a ton of time doing so. So here you're going to see all these enemies are on a cycle, all those platforms are on a cycle, and we did a bunch of movement there that I'm not really going to go into just to make those said cycles. But just know that throughout these levels, we are trying to make a specific cycle every level. Like right here, we're going to be trying to make something at the end known as boulder cycle, where you see these boulders dropping down. We're going to try not to get hit by any of these, and so we're going to move ourselves as such on a certain cycle. And so we don't get hit by any of these boulders and don't have to avoid any of the boulders, and we can move as fast as possible through this level. So right here, we seem to have made it. Normally, we'd have to jump out or around that boulder, or just eat it and just get hit by the boulder, but instead we just avoid it completely. So here we're going to do a little Hail Mary jump, but luckily there are some invisible ledges there. Sometimes you can just fall straight through, but usually they're pretty nice and not that bad. And we're going to ladder ourselves up here. And then now you're going to notice that we are in Hill 3, which is actually where the helmet is located. So normally you would have to go through, again, a Hedge 4, which is a really long auto-scroller, and the greenhouse levels to get here. But since we've gone through the skull levels backwards, it's actually faster. And so now we have gotten to the helmet upgrade, which we need to hit buttons. throughout the game, which we have to have in order to beat Mastermind. So here we're going to make a cycle known as Boulder Cycle, which we get into that little nook, and we don't have to jump over the boulder, because one thing we didn't mention about Scooby's movement is that when he's in the air, he actually moves slower than when he's on the ground. So what you're going to notice is that we're going to try to stay as grounded as possible and keep our airtime as low as possible so that we can avoid being in the air, because being in the air is slow. And here you're going to see us do another death abuse, where we're going to jump into this pit, and we're going to spawn where we spawn in the level, which you guessed it is right here. And you're going to notice we pass this thing called a warp gate. This allows us to warp. And we're going to warp all the way to Fishy, where we're going to do something known as a galoshes skip. Normally, at this point, you have to go through all the manor levels to get to the Black Knight, to get to the galoshes, to break open these barrels here. But instead, we can actually just jump on this barrel and then jump over and into Fishy. So we have skipped probably a fourth of the game. We have skipped so much by just that little jump. And that saves us an entire boss fight. So now we don't need the galoshes power up, because that's the only spot in the game where they block it off with the galoshes. So by doing that, we actually don't need the galoshes at all. And therefore, we don't need to fight Black Knight. So here you're going to notice these treadmills, and I will explain these more later in Fishy 4. But essentially, you can move with them or against them, and against them just moves you slower. And so here in Fishy 2, this is a good spot to describe how Scooby's how snack counts work. So through this level, this is normally a pretty boring level. This is a pretty auto-scrolly level, but it's actually a pretty interesting level, in which case that we can actually get some extra snacks that will help us later on if we play this level very good. And we can get about 2 to 3 extra snacks regularly. So here we're actually going to get one of those extra snacks with that one. And the reason that we want to get as many snacks as possible and as tight as the window as possible is because if we collect, we only collect the fastest snacks throughout the game. So if we miss a certain amount of snacks, then we're going to have to collect what is known as backup snacks. And backup snacks are generally slower than than snacks that are initially on the route. So if we have to collect backup snacks, we're actually going to lose time later on the run, rather than if we were just to hit all the snacks that we're supposed to hit throughout the run, right? So in Fishy 3, we're going to do some platforming here. Just make this a little platform cycle. It's pretty neat, honestly. And then we're just going to collect some snacks, and we're going to move through to Fishy 4, where we're going to explain more about these treadmills. So if you move with a treadmill, you're actually going to move faster. So if you move with a treadmill, you will move faster. If you move against a treadmill, you will actually slow to almost a halt. And so what you're going to notice is that here we're going to be going with the treadmill to make Scooby move faster. And here we're going to be jumping off the treadmills as soon as possible to avoid the momentum loss. And if we frame perfect jump off of a treadmill, like I did not do there, we will actually not lose any momentum throughout the air, and we will instead be able to move very quickly. And here we're going to pay our first snack gate. Now you're going to notice that was 450 snacks. It's a ton of snacks. And here would be a good spot for an ad break if you all have some, or charity reads. All right, so here in Coast 1, you're going to notice that what we didn't mention about Scooby's charge attack before is that it actually shrinks his hitbox to his head. So this means that we can actually, while we're dashing, we can actually slip around enemies, like here. So normally, like, you would be like, whoa, wouldn't you get hit there? But because his hurtbox shrinks to his head, we can actually avoid enemies like that. And we're going to actually see that in the next level, Coast 2, more. So right there, we went for a cutscene skip. Unfortunately, we did not get it, but luckily this only loses about 6 seconds. It's really not the biggest thing of a time loss that you can lose in the run. You can lose a ton more from like a death. So we're just going to keep rolling. Normally, you can just jump on that pole or over that pole in order to avoid this gigantic cutscene trigger, but because it's so big, you're going to run into it sometimes, and unfortunately we did there, but, you know, it is what it is. And so here, you're going to notice that we went across the back half of there to collect a ton of snack boxes. And again, this is a bit out of our way, but actually by collecting those snack boxes, they're really, really fast. So they add up really quickly, and it actually will save us a lot of time later on. And again, in these boxes here that we're breaking up with our helmet have a ton of snacks in them. And this allows us to just be able to finish the game faster than if we were to just ignore them and just get the keys. So here's a very egregious spot where we're going to abuse how Scooby's charge attack works by slipping around all of these enemies here to make a cycle known as Zero Cycle, which essentially is just getting past this first box without getting smashed. Like that. As you imagine, if you bonk into one of those enemies and you go for that cycle, you will just get smashed and be dead and be sent back to the beginning of the level. And by slipping around those enemies like that, we can actually make that cycle and save a decent amount of time rather than having to wait for that box to hit the ground. So here we're going to collect a lot of snacks and snack boxes, and we're just going to collect basically the ones that are along the way, and we're actually going to go across the back half there to collect some extra snacks, because as you can see, there are a ton of snacks there, and which means, guess what? They're very fast, and we're going to collect them. And we're going to do this by actually damage abusing on a fish. So when Scooby gets hit, he's actually invulnerable to damage. So normally, if you hit the water, you drown. But because you have invincibility frames, we can actually we can become Great Dane Jesus and just walk over the water to these boats, and then we're going to jump on an invisible fish bag, whoop, and then we're going to make it over here, and we're going to pay another snack gate, which is a 500 snack gate. And so now we have paid all the snack gates we need except for one, the 850 snack gate. Now you're going to notice that I don't have 850 snacks. In fact, far from so. So in this route, we're actually going to go very much out of our way. Ooh, nice. So right there, just very quickly, is you can, if you frame perfect hit things with Scooby's helmet, you actually don't play the bonking animation where if you bonk into an enemy, you actually play an animation where you like sit down on the floor. And by doing a frame perfect like that, you can actually save a decent amount of time. And it's a pretty flashy trick, just a very small thing that you can do. And basically, as I was saying, we're going to be going out of our way a lot very shortly just to collect a ton of snacks so that we can pay this final 850 snack gate. And so in this level, you're going to notice there are also a ton of snacks there. And again, we got another frame perfect on that button. And basically, we're just letting go of the B button as soon as we hit the button so that we don't play the sit-down animation. It's just really neat. And here you're going to see us going around these enemies yet again with Scooby's charge attack and trying not to bonk into any one of them to hopefully make this cycle where as soon as you hit that button at the bottom there, it sends that little light up, and inside of that light has the upgrade that we need, which is known as the Smash. And that is the final upgrade of the run that we're going to be collecting. And then now we're just going to be making our way to Mastermind. Unfortunately, I did not get that frame perfect there. But no worries, we just collect it, and then that was weird. And then we're going to collect the snack box, and then make our way through. So we need 850 snacks, and because we don't have that many snacks, we're going to have to actually go way out of our way to collect snacks. But funny enough, by doing that void warp that we did back in Skull 4, we lose out on a ton of snacks, but funny enough, it saves so much time doing that void warp that we can actually go out of our way to collect some really quick snacks. And collecting these snacks will actually be faster than doing another route that we have for any percent. That's more of a beginner-friendly route. And so now we're going to be going through that, and we're going to be going through a gauntlet. So, and we're also going to be approaching some areas where we're going to go through and essentially just avoid a lot of other bosses. So we have another ad read we can do so now before we get into Gas 3. Okay, so now we're in a gas 3. This one is a run killer. Basically, we need to jump on this fish to get up here to collect these snacks, and we did. So if you miss that, you lose 20 seconds. So as you imagine at the top level, if you miss that, it is an entire run killer right there. Luckily, we did not miss it. And now we're going to collect all these snacks here. So as you see, there are a ton of snacks in these snack lines. There's snack boxes. All the single snacks are very close together. And we're collecting these snacks so we can get up to that 850 snack total. And so by collecting all these snacks, these are actually the fastest snacks in the game. And we're going to do another PS warp. So again, we risk quitting the game here, but we shouldn't. And now we just warp to Shock 2, and we're going to make our way to a trick known as RBS. RBS is known as Redbeard Skip. So Redbeard Skip, essentially, normally you're gonna see that we're gonna approach this really large chasm, which normally we need to beat Redbeard for, so that we can get the gum upgrade, so that we can get into the basement levels. And in the basement levels, there's an upgrade called the soap upgrade. So essentially, we're skipping a boss fight and two Metroidvania upgrades in order to progress. And we're going to skip a ton of levels with this by doing just 2 jumps, strangely. Because while the chasm is very tall and you can't jump up to it, there is actually an invisible ledge that we're going to jump on. And by jumping on this invisible ledge, we're going to skip another fourth of the game by skipping the entirety of the Redbeard boss fight and all the levels in the basement to get the soap upgrade. So here, this is the chasm I was talking about. And then here we're just going to jump on this invisible ledge, and all the way up. And now we're going to do GGS. Which is known as Gringo Skip, which, you guessed it, we're going to jump on these invisible ledges. Ooh, we're going to make a half bat cycle. Pog. Oh, please. Okay, we made it. So normally you need the umbrella to go up on that fan there to make it all the way over here. But instead, we're going to skip that completely. And actually, between those 2 tricks that you just saw with those little ledges there, we actually saved... we actually just skipped 50% of the game, just outright. Quite literally, we have skipped 50% of the game. Just in about a manner of 10 seconds between 2-3 invisible ledges. And here we're going to do our last major skip, known as Lido Skip, where we're just going to jump on some invisible ledges, jump on here, and then make it here. And so now... this is the 850 snack gate, so we're 1 over. Normally, you do not want to be 1 over, but, it is what it is. And so now, we're on our way to Mastermind. So again, this is another spot where we're supposed to help Shaggy and aid with him, but instead we're going to ignore him because we can actually clip through the door in the back just to get to Mastermind even quicker. And so we're going to do just that. As we approach this gate, we're just going to hold up left, very similar to SCS, where we went into Miss Baven to go through the skull levels backwards. Very similar, we just jump through the door like that, and we just clip through, and we don't have to help Shaggy at all. And you may be like, oh my god, you left Shaggy above the sharks. But no worries. He's in the mech, as you can see there. I went for something called Smashless Acid. I did not get it, unfortunately. Sometimes you can do this jump without having to smash, like you saw me there. But instead, so this time I'm going to smash. Smashing is just a safety strat. You can do that without smashing, and it is faster, but it's fine. And so we actually clip through that wall there, and what that does is that it skips the first phase of the Mastermind boss fight. So normally you have to defeat waves of enemies in order to hit some buttons along the side here in order to get Mastermind to spawn to the ground. But by clipping through that wall there, we actually skip a whole phase of the fight, shortening down the fight exponentially. So here, ooh, we got a frame perfect on an enemy there. That saves a lot of time. And basically, this fight can speed up or slow down depending on the amount of frame perfects that you get and the amount of times that you get hit. So right there, you saw me get hit a bunch of times, completely negating all the frame perfects that I've gotten throughout the run. And you can actually frame perfect these buttons, which I did on the last one. Fortunately, the last one doesn't really save me time, but it's whatever. And so here we're waiting for Mastermind to spawn, and when he spawns, we're going to hit him into the electricity that you saw spawning in front of the buttons. And when he hits that electricity, timer will stop. So now I'm going to hit him here, and timer is about to stop. So basically when he gets it. So now, on my timer we got a 24:38, so pretty solid run. And that's Scooby-Doo Night Run Frights. And thank you, Power Up with Pride, for having me. And thank you. Peace.